I'm going to move that House File 1973 be re-referred to the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Folks, we could just have attention. Chair Acom, tell us about your bill.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members. I'm going to be brief in describing the bill. What it's doing is building on the existing greenhouse gas emissions that we currently have. In 2007 in Minnesota, we passed the Next Generation Energy Act, which set out the greenhouse gas emission reduction goals that were based in the science of that time. And here we are, fast forward to today. We have come quite a long way, and so it's time to update our goals. And so this bill, it updates the goals to be in line with current science as well as in alignment with the Governor Walz climate framework. And it also looks to make sure that any actions that we're doing at a state level will be mindful of disadvantaged communities whenever possible, and make sure that we're getting regular reporting on the progress that we are making. And with that, there are a few testifiers who are here to present on the bill today.
Great. I have Frank Kolash, and then next on up is Kate Knuth. I would ask if the next person can come up there, and please 2 minutes max, less if possible.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Kolash.
Mr. Kolash.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Frank Kolash. I am the Assistant Commissioner for Air and Climate Policy with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and I use he, him pronouns. And I appreciate the author's bill and work in climate change and addressing climate action in Minnesota. While this bill isn't part of the governor's proposal, we clearly acknowledge that the bill reflects the emission reduction goals included in Minnesota's climate action framework released in September of 2022. This addresses one pillar of the framework on the emission reductions target, but it also addresses a second pillar on being equitable in climate action in Minnesota. These updated goals represent the most current science in order to minimize the most devastating impacts of climate change. These goals will bring Minnesota in line with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the federal government's nationally determined contributions to address climate change on a global level. The Governor's Advisory Council on Climate Change also emphatically endorsed and identified the importance of including these goals in Minnesota's climate action framework. Before I conclude, I want to note that for the fiscal note, we have had conversations with the author, and we will be amending the fiscal notes to reflect that there's no fiscal impact to the agency based on what we understand now what the duties caused by the bill for the Pollution Control Agency on an annual basis would be. And with that, we look forward to working with the author as this bill moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kolash. Ms. Knuth, and next is Heidi Roop. So, Ms. Knuth, welcome back to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm Dr. Kate Knuth, Managing and Research Director for the 100% Campaign, and I'm here to support House File 1973. The 100% Campaign supports House File 1973 because we're committed to helping Minnesotans build a more equitable, clean energy and climate future. And to do so, we need to reduce emissions rapidly. It's in the global warming of 1.5 degrees special report, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change found people need to reduce emissions 45% by 2030 from a 2010 baseline and net zero by 2050. These are the goals that align with the House File 1973 goals. To put it simply, to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, Minnesota needs to do what House File 1973 sets out as goals for our state. We do know that setting goals alone does not guarantee pollution reductions. The pollution reductions we are seeking will happen, but goals matter. They set the basis for analysis of what Minnesota needs to do and plans to do, and align the work of state agencies, local governments, and private sector partners. Minnesotans deserve to have all of this work striving to do what is actually necessary to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. We support ongoing review of emissions reduction goals, taking into account the science of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. We support this, considering this body's work, because the IPCC facilitates a coordinated process bringing together the best climate science and scientists across national governments. There's no better scientific body to look to than them. We're glad to see House File 1973 taking on the challenge of addressing disproportionate impacts of climate change, both in addressing it and from the impacts of climate change itself. This part of the bill will help bring about the more equitable climate future we seek at the 100% campaign. On a personal note, I'm glad to support House File 1973 today. Back in 2007, when Minnesota set its original targets, I was a first-term legislator, and advocating and voting for these goals was a highlight of my legislative service. The goals have made us make real progress on addressing climate change in Minnesota. And here we are 16 years later, and quite a bit has changed. What science shows we need to do to address climate change has changed, mostly because people have not reduced emissions fast enough since 2007. We therefore need to ramp up our efforts even more, and House File 1973 will help us do that. While I'm nervous about climate change impacts ramping up, I've never been more hopeful. I'm hopeful now because I believe in Minnesotans and our ability to do great things together. We are ready to take on climate change, and 1973 will align our state's actions with the scale and pace of what's needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roop, and then on deck is Ellen Anderson. Welcome back to the committee. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Roop, Chair Acom, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to join you. I'm an assistant professor of climate science and an extension specialist at the University of Minnesota. And I'm here today to specifically address the scientific basis for 1973. The other testifiers have mentioned this. I'm going to sort of lean into where these numbers are derived from. The Paris Climate Agreement committed to the goal of limiting the increase of global temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius or 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and to, quote, pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, above pre-industrial levels. If current rates of warming continue, global average temperature is likely to reach the 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degree target between 2030 and 2052. That's within the lifetime of most people alive today, and hopefully all of us in this room will be alive to experience a not so warm world. But with every amount of additional warming, the costs and challenges of climate impacts increase. A half a degree Celsius warming means billions more exposed to heat waves around the globe, a doubling of losses to U.S. GDP, increased crop losses, worsening water scarcity, and negative effects on human health. Unfortunately, when current global commitments are accounted for, we're on a path to fall well short of these goals. The science clearly outlines that what we choose to do or not over the next 10 to 20 years will determine what the climate future holds for us, all of us in this room. House File 1973 aligns the state's goals with the most recent science produced by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and importantly addresses the disproportionate impacts and burdens of climate change and climate solutions on different communities and populations. The IPCC outlines and provides many alternative global greenhouse gas emission reductions pathways that get us to these goals. All of these pathways share certain features, including steep near-term emissions and energy demand reductions, net zero by 2050, decarbonization of electricity and other fuels, deep reductions in agricultural emissions, and some form of carbon dioxide removal through carbon storage on land or sequestration in geologic reservoirs. The amended goals in 1973 are supported by the most recent report by the IPCC on mitigation of climate change published in 2022. The report states very clearly, quote, all global modeled pathways that limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and those that limit warming to 2 degrees Celsius involve rapid and deep, and in most cases, immediate greenhouse gas emissions reductions in all sectors. And it's not just robust science that supports these targets. The emission goals, as have already been stated, are aligned with Minnesota's Climate Action Framework, to which over 3,000 Minnesotans contributed. So the state's most recent report on emissions shows we're making progress. We need to do more, and it makes sense to align with the best available science. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roop. Next, Ellen Anderson. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your quick testimony, I hope.
It'll be quick. Thank you so much. I've cut half of it out. I'm Ellen Anderson. I'm a climate program director at Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy, and we are very proud that we did work with Representative Acom to create this bill, which we like to call the Next Generation Climate Act. And as Representative Acom said, that passed in 2007, and at the time, we followed the science in 2007, which said that we should reduce greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. But now we need a new law because the leading scientists of the world have updated the science and made it clear we face nothing less than a code red for humanity if we don't act. They say we must cut emissions in half in this decade, and we must achieve net zero emissions by 2050, and that's exactly what Representative Akam's bill does. In 2007, we came together to do this, but we do know that we didn't meet those targets. And I would like to say just briefly, what's different? What's different? How do we think that we're going to be able to meet these new targets? So what's really different in 2023 compared to 2007 is that we are all now experiencing the impacts of climate change. Think about winter rain, later summers, extreme droughts, and many more things that we've all seen and experienced. Minnesotans are more concerned about global warming than ever, and they want action taken by their leaders. And what else is different? We now have the technology and we have the expertise to cut carbon while improving our quality of life. And finally, what else is different? I believe this is the year of climate action for Minnesota, which will put us on track to what science tells us to protect our future of ourselves and our next generations and future generations. And House File 1973 is a giant step towards that future. So thank you, and please vote yes.
Thank you. We're going to move to member questions and comments, and I've got first Representative Swedzinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Akam, can you buy RECs in order to meet this goal?
Chair Akam.
Well, so that's not, no. The state would be, at least as I understand how the state handles their greenhouse gas inventory at this point, it is not involved buying RECs.
Representative Swedzinski.
So, Madam
And
Chair.
will not going forward, yeah.
Okay, so Madam Chair, would this bill is as a goal, or will this outlaw coal burning in other states?
Madam Chair.
So this is a goal, just like the Next Generation Energy Act is a goal. It doesn't have penalties, but I'd like that to, I mean, I think we know where we need to go, and this bill just puts into law that that is the direction we need to go.
Representative Swedzinski.
Madam Chair, if you were able to kind of wave a magic wand, would you like to put penalties in this bill?
Madam Chair.
If I were king, what I want us to do is move toward reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. And so I think I have said many times I much prefer carrots than sticks. And so I think that we have opportunities to incentivize the behavior that we want to see.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just to finish,
question.
you mentioned carrots and sticks. I just want to remind the body here that 3 billion people globally burn feces and sticks to heat and cook their food. So regardless of what we do, when we look at coal, when we look at other means of electrification throughout the world, that 3 billion people burn feces and sticks to cook and heat their homes. So that's a goal.
I'm going to move to Representative Altendorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative. Just real quick, can you please answer Representative Akam? Everyone that testified, are they somehow receiving tax dollars, or they're being supported through the tax dollar program? Every one of the testifiers.
Madam Chair.
So I guess I'm not sure I understand your question. Do you mean, are they public employees?
Correct. Or they're receiving, like they're a nonprofit and they're receiving taxpayer funding.
I am not sure that I have the financials for those nonprofits. I don't think from MCEA or Dr. Knuth. I think that we have a university professor and a state employee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just let me finish, real quick. So my point is, we continue to pass legislation that's benefiting people. They come in and testify that they need more dollars for the science that they're promoting. And specifically, I just want to comment on the last testifier that she very much said over and over, what's different, what's different. I have that question too, because in the 80s, I was told California was going under. I was told as a child that we were at a destruction if we didn't do something. And now, 40 years later, we're having the same conversation. Thank you.
Okay, final question for Representative Igo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greatly appreciate it. So my quick question for you, Madam Chair, is will this only be emissions that happen inside the state that are going to be counted?
Madam Chair.
As I understand the emissions inventory taken by the department, yes, it's only within. Oh, it looks like maybe he has a clarification if he can run down here really quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Sorry for
Kolash.
coming in last year.
No, you're good.
Please state your name real quickly for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, my name is Frank Kolash, Assistant Commissioner for Air and Climate Policy with the Pollution Control Agency. To your question, in the most part, it is only in-state emissions. However, the Next Generation Energy Act does require us to calculate emissions for imported electricity, and we have a method to do that, and we do that currently with our greenhouse gas emission inventory.
Okay, so
Can I just quick?
if it's 30 seconds, Representative Igo.
Thank you. Was just going to follow up. I think that maybe a way to make this bill better would be to talk about all the things that are coming in for emission-wise, right? Because we were talking about this in House File 7. You know, if we're going to get solar panels and other components from around the world where carbon emissions are high, we should be considering that in our carbon emissions in the state if it's making our state better. Because it's a global environment, it's a global climate, we talk about that a lot. So just a suggestion I have for the bill. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, Representative Akam renews her motion that House File 1973 be re-referred to the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. No. The motion prevails and the bill is re-referred.